Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel.
You can loop a calculator's signals into itself to get certain effects. So if I have A added to B and then wire the result of that into A, then each frame it's going to do this operation and spit it out of the result. So 0 plus 0 is 0, so it'll send 0 out, and then set A to be 0 again. So nothing interesting is happening unless you set this to something non-zero. And then it's doing 0 plus 0.01. Let's just set this to 1. And when you play time, it kind of tries to preview this by the number keeping going up. But when you play time, it will reset back to 0 again. So the first time it looks at it, it says 0 plus 1 is 1. So it sends out 1. And then the top one is now 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. And then 2 plus 1 is 3. So it keeps on adding and adding. It does all of the processing of logic 30 times a second. So 30 times a second, it will add 1 to the result and then store it again and keep on going round and round. And then as soon as you set this to 0, it stops because now it's adding 0 to whatever this is. And this just stores the number. So if you wire that into a thing, so we've got, if we rewind and play, and then I set it to 0, so it's now at 16.05 and stuck at that, and we can get it out by just from the result. So you can use this to kind of store values, and if you imagine you could set this to 1 for like a single frame, and then set it to 0 again, then it would just add 1 and not do anything else. So for example, I'm going to use a timeline, and I'll make it really short, and then use L1 and right, and this kind of zooms in just duration wise, kind of width wise. So now a second, instead of it taking a small amount of the screen, it's taking a lot of the screen, and it starts showing these columns. And each of these columns is 1 frame of logic. So this is 30 columns per 1 second, as we talked about before. If you want to send this 1, or just set it to 1, I'm going to use a keyframe and set this to 1. So while that keyframe is on, just for 1 frame, and then it will go past it and become 0 again. So it will become 1 for 1 frame, add 1 to the result, and then go past it, and then not add to it again. I'm just going to set this to once mode, which means it will just start from the beginning every time, and power it off. So now we'll play time. It's at 0. I want to add 1, so I'm going to power this on. It does its thing, sets it to 1 for 1 frame, and then stops. And that's just added 1 to the result. And if we do that again, then it adds another 1. And we can just pulse these values in to have it just add some number. So if we wanted to add 10 to it, then each time we power this on, it will add 10. So this will become 19, like that. So any value you have, you can just like wire into this B, and it will add it for as many frames as it is being sent. Another thing you can do is use these to kind of hold on to the previous frame's number. So I'll use a switch and just wire it in here, and you can see it sends a 1 or a 0, depending on if it's on or off. If we wire that into B, then each frame is saying A is 1, for example, and then the next frame it's sent out of there into B, and then B becomes 1, but then the A could become 0 because it changed or whatever. So over time, this is 1 frame, this is the current frame, this is the previous frame of whatever value you're sending it. If I display what those are giving us, so this is live and this is delayed, so you probably won't be able to see it. So what I'll do is I'll use another calculator, to test if they are equal. So if that is equal to that, then we'll turn on this switch and it should be easier to spot. Oh, we've got to put it to equals. When I put it to on, it kind of flickers off because it changed. So you can find out if the input value going to A changed within the last frame and like trigger something. Or you can find the difference. So if I found the difference and use the result, and then we find the current value minus the previous value, and then we'll show that down here. So when it goes on, it flickers to 1, and then off, it flickers to 1 again, because, or minus 1, because it went down 1. And you can just about see it, these moving not quite in sync. To make it easier to see that, I tend to use a number displayer. I'll wire that in there and into the power as well. So it'll just flash the number and I find it easier to read. So it flashed a 1, flashed a -1, and so on. And if you change this to some other value, so this is sending a 5 and a 0, so now it's +5 and -5 because that's how it changed over time.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.